Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Ferg's Footy Fanfare. It's Jay. I'm back here with my cousin Ned. How you going, man?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good. Now, I got to let everyone know, I got to put out a huge apology to all our avid listeners of Ferg's Footy Fanfare. It's my fault that we haven't been broadcast in the past couple of weeks. Been moving house and been experiencing some slight technical issues. So I'm definitely not the sharpest tool in the shed when it comes to that. So got it all fixed, so we're back on track.
Shout
And
out to Telstra.
yeah, that's it. Always a winner in my books. And it was probably the worst time to fall into technical issues, mate, because we've missed out on the whole damn festival of footy to talk about.
100%, mate. There has been a lot of football and a lot to digest.
Absolutely. So, I think the best way to look through it is we'll just literally go through every club in the 4 or 5 games they've played and we'll give them a rating.
Yep. Easy.
So no time like the present. We'll get started right now. We'll go alphabetical order. How does that sound? So do you know your ABCs?
Easy. Yeah, mate.
All right, you can start us off then, mate.
Yeah, Adelaide. I don't really like gauging Adelaide. But I rated them a D+. I think they've been somewhat competitive in first halves. They've just dropped away, sort of like your early Giants and early Gold Coast sort of operators. Just they're in it at halftime, but then they're not in it from after.
Yeah, totally agree. And I mean, I know that we asked each other to pick the best team in the Festival of Footy and the worst team. I haven't picked Adelaide, and that's mainly because I wasn't expecting really anything from them in the first place. So I think, did they play? Was the game against Essendon at the very start of the Festival of Footy?
It was one of their first games, yes.
Yeah, it might have been in their first round of the Festival of Footy. So that was the closest they got. And to be honest, they probably should have won that game. But since then, like you said, they've rocked up for the first quarter and a half and then they get blown away. They lost to North by 70 points, Melbourne by 50 points, Collingwood by 4 goals. And then last week against the Doggies, they got slammed by 10 goals. And that leads to my next question, Ned. Do you think that Adelaide will go winless?
Yeah, I think they will. I think there's only maybe 1 or 2 winnable games in their fixture towards the end of the year. But the way they're playing at the moment, I can't see them getting up.
Yeah. And I guess you could also talk about their longer term aspirations. Do you think that they're going to try and sell Brad Crouch at the end of the year or make a call for a priority pick?
I think, Brad Crouch wanted to leave at the end of last year. Am I right?
There's always been a lot of speculation concerning Brad Crouch in particular.
Yeah, no deal got done, so I think he'll try and get out this trade period. I think he'll be gone.
Yeah, and I think at this point it'd be shopping around trying to get the best deal out of him because he's under free agency now, I believe.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, so there was whispers of him going, for a high first rounder and him going, so it'll be interesting to see how long their recovery and it takes for them to build up the ladder. Next team, Brisbane.
Yeah, so Brisbane, I rated them a B for Brisbane. They're notching up wins. I thought against Richmond, they were very disappointing. I think Richmond really blew them out of the water. And they weren't that good against North Melbourne either. So that's why I've given them a B. They've, a team that's in the top 2, a team like North Melbourne, you should be putting them away by at least 5 goals. And, against Richmond, their set shots really killed them.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if we're going the old traditional approach of grading, but I'm going to give them a B-. And the only way that stops them from being a C was their performance they had against the Doggies. Within that, they were very convincing. If by my recollection, I watched that game, and it was just a 10-minute period where they kicked 5 goals and they essentially won by 5 goals. So I think they're a very daunting team once they start to get on track, and it questions whether they're just waiting for the right time now. They didn't play well last Saturday against North Melbourne. You just wonder whether they're trying to hit their straps at the right time of the season. But in saying that, they've got a few injuries as well, Ned. They've got Stephen Martin out. Who's their second ruckman? Archie Smith.
Who?
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly right. So they're down to their third tier ruckman now. So they're struggling. And I know there's that little injury cloud over Charlie Cameron.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see how they deal with that.
Mm.
The Carlton Football Club, the Blue Baggers, mate.
I've given them a C+. I think I probably would have changed my mind if they hadn't got the points against Fremantle, but I think they're somewhat there. I mean, they gave West Coast a good challenge, and they've notched up a couple of wins. So I've given them a C+.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I've given them a C. Only because, I think they like to build up a lot of hype, and I feel that their fans would feel the same thing. But some of the results, they just managed to scrape past North Melbourne. They got hammered in that game against Hawthorn where they were up 31-0. It'd be things like that that really frustrate Carlton supporters, and they played well against West Coast and then still managed to get the job done over Fremantle. Do you think they're going to make finals?
No.
I think that doesn't require much deliberation. I don't think they will either. I think there's far too many teams that are far better than them right on the border of 8th place.
Yeah.
Collingwood.
All right, I'll give you a C for Collingwood.
Ah, nice. I like that.
Yeah, look, they have lost a few games, weren't probably overly as impressive as you'd think they'd be against Adelaide, but I mean, they've had injuries, so I think I've had to cut them a bit of slack.
Yeah, and I think the scoreboard has scoreboard pressure. They won against Sydney by 9 points or something, and they kicked the same amount of goals, 9 different scoring shots. So doing the right things. Although in saying that, they've only had a close-ish win against Adelaide, closest win against Sydney, and got smashed out of the park by Melbourne. So I'm going to give them a D. Understanding of the injuries that they've got, but they're in that hunt for the top 8 now, and they're not safe by any guarantee. I think I know they've got an easier game this week with North Melbourne, but I think they might have a bit of a trip home as well. Next, we got the Bombers.
D. They've been really disappointing, Essendon. There's been so much hype around them for the last couple of years. And, I mean, they made finals last year, and there's supposed to be big things happening this year with Essendon, and it just hasn't come into fluctuation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've put them down as an E, and I've got them down as my worst performing club in the bubble. In the Festival of Footy. I think that they've won 1 in their last 6, and that was against Adelaide by 3 points. I know they had a draw against Gold Coast in there, but you look at some of the losses that they had, they got smashed by Brisbane. And even last week against St Kilda, I thought that their whole game style was really, really poor. And I think it probably raises a few questions, leaning towards the takeover approach that they've had. I know that I've been a bit skeptical of it. How have you felt about that, adopting that approach?
Yeah, it's a bit weird. I think, especially in Woosha, I still feel holds a lot of the reins. I think they've got to be given a lot more of the reins to who's taken over. Is it
Ben Rutten.
Ben Rutten, yeah. Yeah, I think he has to be taking a lot of the reins, especially now when realistically, probably this week, if they don't win this week, they're probably not going to play finals. So if that happens, they might as well start looking ahead.
I'm pretty sure they have one of the toughest runs home. Yeah, they've got Port Adelaide, they've got Richmond in there, so I think they're in big trouble. Next team, we have North Melbourne, currently sitting 17th on the ladder. How did you find their Festival of Footy?
Well, how's your alphabet? That's what I want to know.
Well, yeah, I've missed about 6 teams.
How do you go from F to N?
I've got them on different tabs on my paper, so I'll put my hand up for that one. How about we try again? How's Freo? Was that better?
Yeah, much better. I've given Fremantle a C. I think they've been somewhat competitive. I think the sort of troubled sides have been. I mean, they had that win against Collingwood. Bit unlucky not to win on the weekend. They're doing all right. There's a lot more upside coming out of Fremantle as of late as there was at the start of the season. But, yeah, I don't think it's been anything spectacular. But
Did you hear anything in terms of the findings of the final moments of that game, in terms of how the umpires handled it?
So 2 decisions were right and 1 was wrong. And I think the main thing that was wrong is that it should have been about 10 metres further back along the field.
Because I did hear at one stage they were meant to have Gibbons take the kick as opposed to Jack.
Yeah, and that was another thing, I think, as well.
Yeah. I think that they've been very competitive. I mean, considering where I had them at the start of the year, they've kind of exceeded my expectations, given that they're, still in 14th place and only have 4 wins. They've been far more competitive than I thought they would be. I was surprised that they got the win against Hawthorn. And like you said, I thought that they probably were a bit stiff not to win against Carlton. I've given them a C as well. We'll go down to Cardinia Park, down to your neck of the woods, my brother. And how'd you find Geelong?
I've rated Schlong an A.
Yeah.
Been pretty good. Did they drop one game? I think they dropped one game.
Against West Coast, yeah.
Yeah. Just outclassed by a better side. They're starting to look really dangerous, Geelong.
Yeah, I had them as my team of the Footy Festival. I've given them the A+, the full-on. I thought that even in that loss to West Coast, they were the better team for a long part of it. But in particular, their last 2 weeks, like against St Kilda and against Port Adelaide, I think they've shown they're, definitely contenders. And I think they've shown a lot of people up. I couldn't believe the amount of press that thought that they were going to be on the edge of the 8 or outside the 8s. I kind of found that amazing. So, I think that they'll finish in the top 4. And that's a question I'll ask of you later, who you've got, as penciled in for your top 4. But definitely in this Festival of Footy, A+.
You'd be hoping that your mother buys a slab after that spiel. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. No, she was very mean to me when Geelong was playing St Kilda and I was punching walls. That was a bloody woeful performance, but we'll get to that a little later.
So on to the Gold Coast Suns.
Yeah, mate. Spot on. I'm going to give them this, and this might be a tad generous. I'm going to give them a B. And for a team that, did they even win a game? I don't think they did. I don't think they won a game, but I'm so surprised with how competitive they were in essentially every game. They had some tough opponents in that. I know they played Richmond, obviously, last night, a couple nights ago. They drew with Essendon, which they should have won. They let that one slip in the last quarter. They were very, very competitive against St Kilda, and they weren't too far off it against GWS. So I'm going to give them a B. They constantly seem competitive. They've had 4 wins and 7 losses, and they're only at 98%. Their percentage is better than Western Bulldogs, who are at 6-6.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm going to give them a D+. I think there's... Yeah, look, you can't be doing that. Giving them, what did you give them?
I did give them a B. I said it might be a tad generous, but
you can't be doing that. D+. I reckon there was 3 of those games they could have won. I reckon they should have beaten Essendon. St Kilda they could have beaten, and Richmond they had Richmond on the ropes at halftime, and
I guess it really brings into question their inability now, and it is starting to become a real big thing, their form once the start of the season drops off. Is there anything that you can bring that down to?
I think just looking at the stats, they don't lie. They always start off the season pretty well, and getting the Gold Coast ripen early in the season is always a bit of a it's a bit of a worry. But it seems as soon as they cop that sort of one shellacking or half shellacking, like they get done by 40 points, and then the trend seems to sort of continue. They lose that sense of belief or something.
And I think you made a really good point throughout the week, is that they play such a high-pressure brand of footy, is that you can't expect them to be able to go 4 quarters, let alone a whole season, with maintaining that pressure. So I guess it becomes more likely throughout a round that they might turn off or lower their pressure status for, 5-10 minutes, and that really hurts them.
Yeah.
But still better than a D+, mate. Come on, jeez. All right, I got Greater Western Sydney next. The Giants.
Very mediocre. A C.
Mm-hmm.
They should. They're a top 8 side. They should probably be a top 4 side, and I don't know what is going on.
Yeah, they've done well to come away with quite a few wins. It was starting to look good when they got through Richmond by a couple of goals, but once the injury to Toby Green happened, it's really, shot themselves in the foot. They're struggling big time without him.
Yeah.
Actually, a question I've got for you. Do you think that who is the most important player for their club? Like, if that person's out for their club, then they're screwed.
Are you meaning as in respect to GWS or just any club, any player?
Any club in general. See, for me, I reckon mine would be either Toby Green at GWS or Jake Stringer at Essendon.
Yeah, I'd nearly say Paddy Cripps at Carlton.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Actually, that's a really, really good one. Yeah, I feel like, because let's say for whatever reason, Richmond lost Dusty, goes out with an injury out for 3 or 4 weeks. You guys have that many stars that you're able to kind of negate the loss. Whereas, I think the Richmond Essendon, the reason Essendon have struggled so much is because of Jake Stringer being out.
What about Dan Butler to St Kilda?
Well, he's playing pretty well at the moment, isn't he? Looks like you keep him quiet, you keep the Saints quiet. But we'll get to that later. Stop it. I can talk about that all night. You cheeky boy.
Downhill
Next
skier,
team.
mate.
Next team, Hawthorn, 16th place. Talk about downhill skiers.
D.
I've got D as well.
Shithouse.
Yep.
Shithouse.
Exclamation point, capital letters, bold it, underline.
Yeah. Hawthorn looked really promising. They knocked off my mob Richmond, and I thought, they might actually. And I think at that point everyone was saying, well, they could be playing finals and all that, and now they just dropped off the face of the earth. Clarko's position has been put under scrutiny. Senior players have been put in the firing range. Half a season's a long time.
Yep, I think I even saw somewhere in media outlets over the last week that they've assigned themselves to playing kids now, to focusing on playing younger talent. So, you'd have to say that that's how it's going to be for them. I was particularly disappointed. I watched the West Coast game, and I understand that West Coast is in supreme form and they're playing really well, but it made me realise Hawthorn's midfield, and they've got quite a good midfield. Like, they should not be slacks in the midfield.
You got a Brownlow medalist in there, and I know O'Meara was actually injured as well, but McAvoy played, I believe. He's
That's correct.
Yeah. Warple's a young up and coming star. They're not lacking much quality, but.
Yeah, so they have Port Adelaide next, and it doesn't get any easier for them. Next team, we have Melbourne. Ned, how the D's gone?
I've rated them a B. They're starting to hit some form, and they're starting to nearly look like that 2018 Melbourne that really posed a threat, and it's essentially got them to a prelim final. I don't think they'll probably be as good to get a prelim final, but They're sitting pretty in the 8 at the moment, and I think in this season, if you can find your way into the 8, and with these short turnarounds that we had in this frenzy, teams will be a lot more accustomed to the shorter turnarounds and may help out the teams that finish in that bottom quartet of the 8.
Well said, sir. Well said. Yeah, I've got them down as a B plus. I know that they had a big loss early on to Port Adelaide, and maybe they even had their big loss to Brisbane at the start of it all.
Yeah, I think they lost 2 very tough games, and
it wasn't a big loss to Brisbane. Sorry, it was within a goal.
They really sort of bounced. I think they just lost to Brisbane, then they got thumped by Port, and then they bounced back.
Correct. But their last 3 wins, they've smashed Adelaide, they've smashed North, and they've smashed Collingwood. So their opponent has become increasingly difficult. And like you said, they're playing some really good football reminiscent of 2018. I've got them in my 8s at the moment based on the form that they're playing. So,
just a question for you now. Do you see the 8 changing at all? Can you see someone coming in, someone dropping out?
It's a great question. Given on current form, the only team that I can really see coming out is Collingwood. Yeah. And I think maybe the Dogs are more likely to slip into the 8 as opposed to GWS. But that would just be based on a form thing at the moment. But it's too hard to tell. And that's why this week is so important for Melbourne. They're up against the Dogs. Whoever wins is going to be in the 8 by the end of the week. So...
yeah.
Although Melbourne will have a game up their sleeve.
I feel if Bulldogs lose this week, who are the Giants playing? We haven't picked them this week. Who are they playing?
They're playing West Coast.
West Coast, yeah. If somehow GWS are able to manufacture something out of that and Bulldogs are to lose, I'd say GWS will be the only team outside the 8 that can make the 8.
Yeah, I think, I feel like I've been saying this and it's becoming very cliche, but the 8 is going to be well and truly formed by the end of the week, I feel. This Melbourne Bulldogs game is huge.
Yeah.
Game of the round. The Kangaroos, mate. Now we're up to the Kangaroos. So tell me how the Kangaroos are going.
It's going to be a bit harsh based on their weekend's performance, but I'm going to say a D+.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, been quite disappointing. I mean, I know they thumped Adelaide, but their early stint in the frenzy just wasn't all that competitive. But I thought they were really good against Brisbane. I thought, they really hold Brisbane accountable.
Yeah, I've got them as a C. They've been average. They did play well against Brisbane. I'll give them that. But to only come away with 1 win, albeit over Adelaide, they got 2, heavy-ish losses as well. I think that they'll be situated down the bottom towards the bottom. No, I can't see that changing. Next team, Port Adelaide.
The lovely people of Port Adelaide. An A-. I think. I know they got pants by Geelong last Friday, but I think I reckon they've been pretty good. I still don't know if I can trust them to win the premiership, but I reckon they'll be in the thereabouts.
Yep, agreed. I'm going to give them an A- as well. They had some big scalps. They did manage to get a big win over Melbourne. They did beat Richmond, but I think the thing that stopped them from hitting that A+ tier was a big loss to Geelong last week. So they need to make sure they get on track. I feel the same with you in terms of I'm not too sure how trustworthy they are and once it gets towards the final series. But I mean, look, they're top of the ladder and they've been top of the ladder the whole season. So, and I think that they'll stay in top 4 personally. So,
yeah.
All right, we've got your mob, the Richmond Tigers. How did they go, you think, over the Festival of Footy?
B+. I rate them a B+. A lot of injuries, a lot of players out. A lot of young, not so much younger, but inexperienced players coming through the ranks. And I think the system's held up well. So yeah, it's a B plus for mine. I mean, missed Hooley, Edwards, Cochin in a couple of games, Nankervis, Prestia, Asprey. Yeah, I think with all the outs, a B plus I think is pretty suitable.
Yeah. No, I've got a B plus as well. You got some good wins in there. I know that you guys beat the Dogs. That was convincing. And you guys beat the Lions as well. It would have been nice for you to beat Port. And once again, that would have got you into the A plus tier. But
yeah,
in the way that you're able to manage it, and you had some younger kids. You've had Ross stick in for a few games throughout that period. You've had Graham come in and out, Ed Malesi Smith. So I was surprised that he didn't play last week, did he?
No, he got dropped.
Jeez.
Shea Bolton, though, would be on track for a best and fairest for mine.
Really?
Yeah, he's looking the goods.
Yeah, well, I reckon that Daniel Riel has been playing pretty well as well, mate.
He actually did play pretty well against the Gold Coast. He does cop a lot of shite.
Bit of a whipping boy down at Punt Road.
Yeah, but no, I think he redeemed himself quite well. Caps McIntosh played well as well.
Yeah, that's always a good sign if he's getting around and not screwing it up.
All right, on to your mob.
Yeah, look, I've got them as a B plus through the Festival of Footy. They started out really strong, giving Sydney a poleaxing, and that's quite rare. I think it had been 10 years or something since St Kilda had beaten Sydney. And then
cheese, duck and rice.
Yeah, cheese, duck and rice. That's what I've had to deal with for the last 10 years. So the Geelong game was really disappointing. I think that St Kilda played their worst and Geelong played at their best, and there's 10 goals difference in that. But last week they were very, very good against Essendon. So I think that they only need one or two more wins to secure finals.
I think you're in finals now, mate. Don't panic.
How many wins do you think will get into finals?
Just let me have a look at me ladder.
That's all right. At the moment, we've got 8th place sitting on 6 wins they've played 11 games.
So you guys are on 32 points. So you're 2 games clear of 8th. I reckon one more win, and you probably sewn it up.
I think 9 wins will get you into the 8, but I think 10's an absolute certainty. I can't see
10's a safety, yeah.
Yeah, I can't see anyone not getting in through 10 wins. I think in the next 5 weeks, St Kilda's got Hawthorn, I know they play. GWS, they play. But they've got a few tough games in Melbourne, West Coast, and Brisbane this week. How did you think the Saints went?
So the mob down at Seaford, I've given them a B+.
Oh, jeez. Mate, a couple of years too late for that, mate.
Oh, that's right. You're back at Moorabin, aren't you? Yeah, I really like the Saints, especially watching it when you came down and they did a number on my mob. I like the Saints. I probably don't have them as one of my teams to back for the premiership, but like when I was talking to you earlier, if everything goes right, there's no meaning that they can't go all the way.
Yeah, I think that it would have to come together. I don't see them as real contenders. I think there's at least 4 clubs better than them, so they'd really have to get everything in place. Next, we've got the Sydney Swans.
C+. I thought they were really good against GWS. I can't tell you much about their other performances, but they've been a lot more competitive considering the personnel they've had out. I mean, Franklin out, Parker out, no, not Parker, Kennedy out, and Heaney out. I mean, that's probably their 3 of their best 4 or 5 players out. And now, I mean, Dane Rampey goes out, which is going to be, a big loss for them. But I think they've been quite competitive for a side that I thought probably would have finished second bottom or bottom of the ladder at the start of the year.
Yeah. No, I've got them as a C+ as well. They managed to get a good win against Hawthorn, where I had them as the underdogs. And they kept it close against Collingwood, and obviously their big win last week. So I think it's John Longmire has a lot to do with that and making sure they're at least competitive. West Coast.
A+.
There you go.
My team in the Frenzy, did they play Collingwood in the Frenzy, or was that just before the Frenzy?
I reckon it was in the Frenzy. Might have been their first game.
That was an awesome performance. That was one of the most dominant performances I'd seen from a side, especially against, you'd say Collingwood are a quality opposition as well. They
That
make
was outrageous how well they
look
played.
like shite. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got them as an A, and the only thing, and this isn't their fault, but the only thing that I've got a question mark over is them playing away from home.
Yeah.
So we know that of the issues that they had at the start of the season, they piped up. They started whinging. Simpson, the Premier, they all started whinging. They're back at home.
Their Premier is actually a Fremantle supporter.
Oh.
If you did your homework.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
No, but he was
Fremantle supporter.
He was pro WA, and he whinged up about how they were leaving. You didn't hear a bar out of anyone from Fremantle about how they had to go over there.
Nah, you never hear anything out of that mob. I have a lot of respect for that mob.
Yeah, so come back home, and they have been, the best performing team. But it'll be. I can't wait for the Richmond West Coast game over in Metricon. That's what I'm very excited.
Football.
That's it, mate. Why not? It's where Goz has played. It's where the home footy belongs. I know he's played at the MCG as well.
So is Tom Lynch.
Jeez, we'll get stuck into that a little bit later.
Most goals at Metricon, mate. There's a stat for you.
Yeah, he's going for the most bloody cheap shots at Metricon as well if he's not careful.
That was at the Gabba. Thank you very much.
No, that one of them was at the Gabba. Thank you.
Yeah.
Last team, the Doggies.
The Western Bullfrogs, a C. A flat C.
Yeah, they've been very up and down, I thought. They've had a tough run. Richmond, Port Adelaide and Brisbane. But they would have liked to have won one of them. Yeah,
I think if they're gonna consider themselves a contender, they probably should have scalped one of them, especially their record against Richmond of late. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So, that sums up our Festival of Footy. I know that there's a secondary Festival of Footy. Where is it? 19 games in 20 days or something along those lines. That's coming up. It's coming up in a couple of weeks, so we'll be sure to do something on that. What we'll do is we'll do a quick preview of this week, round 13, and then we will end this. So, is it tomorrow night they start or Friday night?
It's Friday night.
But I think it is Friday night. Gold Coast and Carlton, Ned. Who's going to win that?
Carlton. I think Carlton on their day are better than Gold Coast on their day.
That is a very good theory that I like to run. But in saying that, I'm going to tip Gold Coast. More so based on consistency. I think that they rock up every week, whereas Carlton is a little bit more how you going in terms of, they might just rock up for a quarter or two. Even in that Fremantle game, I think the score at quarter time was something like, I don't think they scored in the first quarter. I could be wrong. But no, I'm going to tip Gold Coast. Next game, we've got game of the round. We have the Doggies v Melbourne. I reckon that's game of the round.
Yeah, that'll be up there. I reckon Melbourne. I just think based on form, I think it's very hard to go by Melbourne. I think, the Bulldogs are a bit like a box of chocolates. You don't really know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that better myself. No, I've tipped Melbourne as well. It's hard to go past them the way that they're playing at the moment. Clayton Oliver's really stepped it up after receiving a fair bit of criticism. Probably undeserved criticism, in my opinion. But in the last couple of weeks, he's really showed up and he's starting to provide, that 2018 quality that we were starting to get used to.
Is Petrarca better than Martin at this stage?
No, he's not. I think that's people having a slow news day at the office and just want to create a bit of banter. among the group. I think it's nice to Petrarca. It's pretty disrespectful to Dustin Martin, I would have thought.
Yeah.
So what's your views on that?
I'm sure Dustin Martin's sitting there with 2 Norm Smith medals, 2 premierships, and a Brownlow medal, just thinking maybe one day, but not now. Definitely not.
Yeah. No.
Who's Christian Petrarca?
Next game, we've got Port Adelaide Hawthorn.
Taxi. Port Adelaide.
Port Adelaide. Be interesting to see now that Sicily's done his ACL, whether Charlie Dixon will have a day out. I know that Frawley's been struggling big time in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Essendon v Richmond in the Northern Territory for Dreamtime at the G.
No, it's not Dreamtime at the G.
Dreamtime at the TO Stadium.
Richmond.
Yeah, Richmond. I think that's almost the biggest discrepancy in form. Wise considering how Essendon plays. Essendon was my loser of the week last week. I thought their game style was horrible. Man, I thought that was bad. They played so slow, they just bombed it in. And if they do that against Richmond, Richmond's going to have a field day. They'll take a mark in back line, run it up. God, big deficit. I'm talking big margins if they're going to play like that.
Yeah, big shout out to one side of our family about Essendon. Yeah. Yeah, look, I'm not complaining about Essendon not playing well.
Next game, we got Freo Sydney. Now, I reckon this will also be a good game. So
I reckon Fremantle. I think Fremantle will be very filthy about last week. Sydney, is it? They're going to be. Can they back up that performance? But I think Fremantle will be absolutely filthy with last week.
I'm going to tip Fremantle.
I think they'll come out.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's hard to say based on not seeing teams and everything, but I do think that Fremantle will get home at home as well. Yeah, the noise of affirmation going with their premier in the stands, perhaps if he's a Fremantle fan.
He is a Fremantle fan.
No, I've done my homework.
Nice.
Well, got a nice game here. Adelaide v Geelong.
Yeah, don't really know which way this one's going to swing.
Yeah,
I don't know if Geelong are going to win by 100 points or Geelong are going to win by 90 points.
They might go. If it was a regular length game, they might try for that 233 score that they did against Melbourne about 10 years ago. But no,
I'm sure Melbourne fans would be happy if that comes into fruition.
Yeah, we'll have to mention Aiden Sheedy on that. You're going to have to get your views on that one. Next game, we've got Brisbane v St Kilda at the Gabba.
St Kilda for mine. I still cannot buy into Brisbane, and I reckon Dan Butler's going to stick up for his mate Tom Lynch and run through Mitch Robinson.
It'd be good to see. I don't think there's many people too keen on running through Mitch Robinson, so
it's because he's too busy having a crack at the umpire.
I'm going to go and tip Brisbane. Obviously, I'd love for the Saints to get up. I think Brisbane's just got the more potent midfield with Lockie Neal and co running the show in there.
Lockie Neal. Is that all you're going to say?
Well, he's playing an outstanding season. I reckon if he didn't play a game for the rest of the season, he'd win the Brownlow right now. I think anyone's going to catch him.
Yeah.
But no, I think they just probably a tad too powerful in the midfield, and I think that they will just get the job done.
I'm still a bit quizzy about their younger players, like like McCluggage and the Berries, and Hipwood. I know Hipwood had a day out the other week. I think he had a day out the other week, but yeah, some of these players aren't consistent and don't stand up. I think St Kilda will probably do a number on him.
Well, if that's the case, if St Kilda managed to get the win, unless it's by something like, within a goal, there's only 2.5% between them in percentage. So it's likely St Kilda will go above Brisbane. And then you start talking about Saints as top 4. So I think that'll be something that'll really drive them this week.
Yeah.
Whether that'll be enough to get the job, I don't know. West Coast v GWS.
West Coast.
Yeah. Just GWS aren't playing good enough, are they, at the moment?
Nah.
And final game of the round, we got Collingwood, North Melbourne.
Yeah, Collingwood is struck by injuries a fair bit, but I think Collingwood is still classy enough, and they still play a good brand. I think they'll beat North Melbourne.
Yeah, I think they'll bounce back. I don't think, considering the way that Bucks kind of presents himself, I don't think he would have liked what happened last week with the schlacking. I think they'll be come out looking for a fair bit of vengeance. Beautiful. That is round 13 wound up. Do you have anything else? Any questions you'd like to ask, Ned, or anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, right. Will the Newcastle Knights play finals this year?
Look, it's a great question, mate. I think that they're just going to squeeze in there. They'll be in the bottom half of the 8, but it won't be doing as good as the Melbourne Storm.
Yeah. See you in finals, mate.
Beautiful. Well, we'll leave it on that. Thanks for everyone that's tuning in. I promise that we'll get it going a bit more often now that we've had our technical issues resolved. And thank you, Ned, for joining us once again. It was an absolute pleasure.
Always a pleasure, mate. Always up for a chat.
All right. Beautiful, mate. Catch you around.
All right. See you, bro.